Okay, here's why the babe is awesome. It's compact, powerful, 4K 60p RAW over HDMI to a Ninja 5, 4K 10-bit S-Log3 120p internal, and killer autofocus. It's versatile, quickly assembled and disassembled. The QR plate fits a tripod video head. It has good weight, good balance for handheld use. The base rig is light enough for a Ronin S gimbal to handle it, and the whole thing is still light enough for a medium size slider. It has good cable management, compact video transmission up to 1080p 60 off the Ninja into a Mars 400S, a versatile, lightweight filter system using 4x4 filters, CPL, ND, and mist. On top of that, it has good monitor articulation. And on top of that, I did a little something here and there just to make it look cool. Alright, let's build this thing. First things first, centerpiece, the camera body. In my case, this is the Sony A7S III, and it's the perfect camera for what I do on YouTube and professionally. Next up, the cage that I'm using is this one from 8zin. Not only does it have a very nice design, but it also gives me all the technical aspects of a cage that I want. Number 1, 2, in this case even 3 1/4" or 3/8 of an inch screw holes in line. 2 screws will prevent the 2 parts from shifting or turning. It has this tiny screw right here, which is used to attach the camera body to the cage a second time. First time being a simple 1/4" screw through the bottom. Oh, and before I forget, the 8zin cage has the best HDMI cable clamp I have yet experienced. This thing is awesome. Then, this is important, open the hatch for the HDMI cable before you apply the cable clamp, because afterwards you can't open it anymore, because it sits right here like this. And there we go, camera inside the cage. Next up, rail mount base plate. And I landed on this one from Small Rig. 2 points of attachment, again, that I can use to hook this up to the camera cage. If you work with the camera over an extended period of time, let's say running and gunning, any single screw connection is very likely to become loose. In this case, I'm using a 3/8 of an inch and a 1/4 inch. Make sure this aligns properly with the cage and then make it a tight, secure fit. Really put some elbow grease into this one because you don't want these 2 pieces to move at all. This is an area rosette adapter that goes right on top of the cage, which is used to attach the top handle later on. And this is a tilter NATO rail, which is used to attach a right side wooden handle. I opted for this one pretty much because it looks awesome. I really like the way they designed that. And it has a simple NATO rail clamp to attach it to the setup. Slides on just like this. Tighten it, and there we go. Next up, the rails/rods. I chose a 15mm diameter, 20 cm length. These are from 8zin and they have these really nice cutouts. They look awesome, but if you want to apply a rod clamp right here where the cutouts are, sometimes you have to turn the rod a little to either one direction for the rod clamp to really clamp down on the rod or the rail. Let's put them inside the 15mm rail mount on the bottom of the setup. And there we go. Rails installed on the setup. Second most important part of the setup, the lens of course. And as so often, I'm going with the bread and butter 24-70 f2.8 G Master lens from Sony. It's just almost perfect for everything that I do on YouTube and professionally. And especially in run and gun type scenarios, this is my favorite lens. Also sporting the same skin as on the camera body, so it matches for 2 reasons, the same ones as with the camera body. Number 1, resale value protection, because if this scratches, that's not a big deal. If the lens has a scratch, that lowers the resale value. And number 2, it freaking looks cool. Next up, small part, rather expensive part for what it is, and optional on top of that, but still one that I really like to use. A lens support. In my case, I landed on this one from 8zin because it allows me to use it in a way that actually it is not intended to be used. Like this. So I'm using this part flipped Why am I doing this? Because with this setup, the lens, because I tried to keep it very compact, is too close to the rails for any regular rail mount to fit. Because I can flip this bottom part of the 8-in one, I can still make it work. You know, over the months and maybe years, the mount is going to become less precise. There's going to be more play the longer you work a camera like this. And using a lens support will keep the mount in perfect working condition. Use something like an Allen wrench or the tip of a screwdriver. So I'm pushing this way a little, making sure it's aligned nicely and sits in between the focus ring and the zoom ring. Once that is done, I'm tightening the screw right here. Lens support applied. Next up, the QR plate. I'm using the one that came with my DJI Ronin S. Again, 2 screws, in this case 2 1/4-inch ones. I'm using this one because, well, it does fit the DJI Ronin S, it does fit my video heads, the 502s from Manfrotto, and it fits the tiny video head on my slider. Most importantly, again, 2 screws to attach it to the bottom of this rail mount base plate. So again, fits my description of what a good connection is. At least 2 screws. Quick intermission. I found a better way to prepare the top handle. The NATO rail that later I'm going to use to hook up the video transmission still sits right here. So right here and right there, this is where the 3/8 inch to 1/4 inch screw adapters sit. Those do not level with the grip itself. There's a bit of a rim to them, which will act as a spacer for these 2 cable clamps. So for the time being, let's just attach the cable clamps to the top handle. Large cable clamp cavity, let's say, of the first one facing up and of the second one facing down. And that's how we're going to prepare the grip. Next up, because we're moving into applying the Ninja V monitor, another rail, 15mm diameter, 10 centimeter length. And it hooks up to the top handle roughly like this. Third most important part of this setup, the external monitor / recorder. And I'm using an oldie but goodie at this time, the Ninja 5 or Ninja V from Atomos. It's a 5-inch diagonal external monitor with excellent assist features and at the same time an external recorder that records to simple standard SSDs via a caddy system. And it's running off of simple Sony NPF batteries. Now, to attach it to the setup, I opted for a cage. Again, this one's from 8-in, so it has the same design qualities as the top handle and the camera cage. And it comes again with these excellent HDMI cable clamps, or this dual cable clamp, I should say. Same design, fits in nicely with the rest of the rig. Added protection when running and gunning, resale value protection, secure cable connections via the dual HDMI cable clamp that comes with the cage. If you kill the cable getting stuck somewhere, that's not a big problem. That's at the most like 60 to 80 bucks if it's an expensive cable. But if you kill the HDMI connection or any kind of connector inside like expensive devices, replacing them, or when it comes to a camera, repairing them, that's hundreds of dollars easily. 1/4 inch screw from the top, 2 tiny screws from the sides right here, none from the bottom. So if you were to use a screw-in monitor mount, you could screw it in right in the middle, not offset to either side. Secure this one lightly, secure the second one lightly, secure this one tightly, and then secure the tiny ones tightly. And of course, I also put a clear screen protector on the front of the Ninja. Now to attach the monitor to the setup, these are the 2 parts used. And it took me quite some time to land on exactly those 2, but these are perfect. This one attaches to the bottom of the Ninja 5 via 2 1/4 inch screws and then gives me, via a 3/8 inch to 1/4 inch adapter, a 1/4 inch connection and area locating pins that will fit the top of this monitor mount. Locating pins and a 1/4 inch screw. On the other end is a rod clamp, 15 millimeters. Here's how it works. Right here, attached like this. And this is what it needs to look like. To make this a secure connection, again, you can use an Allen key. And because of the locating pins, this part does not rotate anymore. Only this lower part, which is exactly what we need for this setup. Oh yeah, right, before I forget. The friction of this articulation you control via this screw right here. And the friction of this articulation you control via the screw right there. Then open the rod clamp and just slide it onto the setup right here. So I placed mine almost all the way out here, and then I'm going to use this clamp right here to adjust the monitor. Next up, video transmission. Now, if you're a lone gunman, lone gunwoman, you don't need this, but oftentimes you're working as an operator. You need to show the DP or the director or whomever, guy from the agency, what you're doing, because they don't just want to follow you around. And I'm using the system called MAS 400S from Holyland. It takes simple Sony NPF batteries, has an SDI out, as well as an HDMI out, and even a Type-C connector for charging via a power bank, and a DC connector to run it off the grid. It supports up to Full HD 60 frames per second, which for monitoring is enough. Unit comes with this adapter that allows me to translate the 1/4 inch mount on the bottom to the front. There we go. Then I take this monitor mount that has a NATO clamp on the bottom and a simple screw mount on the top. And then I'm using the NATO clamp part to attach it to the top handle right there. Slide it in and then bend it, and it'll hit the rail right here, which will basically lock it in place. Video transmission applied. Okay, quick intermission. I found a better way to do cable management. The connection between the monitor and the camera runs under the grip, starting camera to grip from the left side, then is taken care of by this first cable clamp, so it slopes on the right side of the top handle, then dives under the top handle again to finally reach the camera. Monitor to video transmission runs as follows: down, in between monitor and top handle to the right side of the top handle, moves over the slope of the first cable, and then is attached on the right side of the top handle via the second cable clamp, then slopes over the top handle and moves down to the video transmission input. This way all the cables run securely on the setup. It'll take a bit of getting used to gripping the top handle because the cables are in between two of your fingers, but once you get used to that, it's not a big deal at all. Fourth important part of this rig, the filter system. And I went for this one. This is the Neezy version 6, a 4x4 filter holder system. Now, the important part here is that not only this is rotatable, which is important for graduated NDs, but also lockable, so it doesn't rotate anymore, which is something that sets it apart from a lot of other 4x4 filter systems. I want mine to be lockable because when you're running and gunning, I don't want this to move. There is a polarizing filter built in that you can rotate via this little wheel right here. There's another one on the bottom right there. If you unlock right here and pull this pin, you can take this thing apart. This usually fits 3 4x4 filters with a thickness of 2 millimeters, but I refitted this one specifically to take one 2 millimeter filter and one 4 millimeter cinema filter. So the first of my 3 most important filters obviously then is the polarizer. I can take off the reflections of non-metallic objects to the degree that I want by rotating it. Second filter then is an ND. I'm using this IR-ND from Neezy. It's a ND8, so 3 stops of light reduction. It's the 2 millimeter filter. goes right here. And then you would call this an effects filter, a Tiffin Pro Mist quarter strength. This is the 4mm 4x4 cinema version of this filter. As I said, I refitted the V6 so I could use it with this filter holder. And there we go. So this is my standard set when I'm shooting this rig outside, polarizer and the quarter mist. Now let's put this onto the rig. Super simple, unlock, take this part out. Then all I have to do is align it correctly. And there we go. All the filters, all the NDing, all the polarization, adjustable, separate from one another, that I need. One item remains, this one. As you've seen during assembly, and same goes for this assembly as well, I've been using this tiny handy multi-tool from Vlogger. It has everything I need for this rig. And it's about 10 bucks, so it's a steal, really. The cool thing about this one is it has a 3/8 of an inch screw hole right here. This affords me the ability to hook it up to the setup, because let's face it, this is where you need this thing the most. Not in your pants pocket, your jacket pocket, your camera bag, or elsewhere. So all I have to do is get a cold shoe adapter that is 3/8 of an inch, and this spacer. It's a random one. This one just fit my needs. You can use basically anything that fits yours. So this one goes right here, then the spacer, and then last but not least, this tiny little lifesaver goes right here. Can still use the grip, and you always have it with you. Better than that even, you always have this thing where it belongs, with the rig itself. Now before I wrap up this video, you might be asking yourselves, why are the rails on the setup at all times? Couple of reasons. Number one, I just like the look of it, and that's a valid reason in my world. I love the look of aluminium, wood, gunmetal and black. I think the rails give the whole setup a nice accent. Number two, if I were to use a manual focus lens, a focus puller could hook up his focus motor and do his job while I operate the camera. Reason number three, it constantly adds weight to the camera, which I found to be especially helpful in two scenarios. Number one, shooting handheld, because a bit more weight on setups like this goes a long way in camera control when operating the camera, cradling it, or handheld. Second scenario, when I shoot this from my Ronin S gimbal, I cannot use the side handle, the top handle, or anything really that's attached to it. So weight-wise, what remains is the camera body, camera cage, 24-70 f2.8 GM, the filter system, and the rail mount base block, including the rails. The motors of the Ronin can still very well handle this weight, so it gives me added stability while operating the Ronin, although I have to say, being bent over, operating the gimbal, isn't as much fun having to handle more weight, but the end results are better. So if you liked the video, if you found it helpful, please make sure to leave a thumbs up. It's greatly appreciated. Any kind of comment or feedback is welcome, and I'll try to answer as quickly as possible. All the tech that I've used in this video is linked in the description. And for everybody who is interested in the exact parts of this setup, I created a kit on kit.co that'll show you everything in detail. As always, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for watching, and hopefully see you again soon.